So after doing the ambient occlusion maps, there's something else that I'd like to bake. And what this is specifically is these are masks that allow me to select specific regions on the UV map to assign specific colors to them. And I'm just going to reuse the material IDs that I've set up here. We're going to have red, green, and blue. And the green's going to be the main color, like where the main paint is on the bulldozer. The blue is going to be for specific areas that have like the glass and the glass pieces of the lights. Red is going to be for pieces that have been painted red. You might have remembered this from the high poly video, but certain pieces on some of these bulldozers are painted red where human interaction is possible, like where you're supposed to grab onto it or where you're supposed to tie a rope onto it. I think this is pretty cool. Like, it allows for some contrast, so I want to be able to select these areas out. And the whole point of baking these material masks is that you don't have to manually pixel paint these in your diffuse texture. You just bake this out and then you can use them as a selection mask, just create color fill layers, whatever, for that point. Now there's a fourth one in here, which I've also created, the black one, and I'm also creating a fifth one, the yellow one, for the bullets. The gun's really specific in terms of colors, so I'm going to make all the bullets yellow, and this plane in between to stop things is going to be black. The rest of the gun's also going to be black. So trying to hide a few things, and we're going to bake this in pretty much the same way. So the material IDs don't really matter anymore. I do have to make sure that I turn off the ambient occlusion stuff. I'm going to add a diffuse map in there and save this out as LPO2 diffuse map. Sounds about right. Same deal as we've done before. I'm just going to immediately go for the largest size. Why? This one's pretty fast, actually. It's nice for a change that it doesn't take so long to calculate. It doesn't have to do anything specific. Just pick the color from the high poly, which is really quick in comparison. So there we are. That done. I'm going to set the ray mist color to green as well. So if it misses anything, just color it green. I don't really care about it. I mean, this mask has to stay relatively simple. Just not going to bother too much. It really is mainly about those areas that are like some of these parts, like on the main sprocket, there are these little red cylinders which you saw me select a minute ago or something, which you just don't have as objects on the low poly. So it makes sense to bake them so you get the exact per pixel position where they are on your normal map and ambient occlusion. So I'm going to save the second one out as well. There we are. And then we're going to go for the third one here. Just hide and unhide the correct part so we can work with that. Most of it's green anyway, but certain parts are specifically a different color, so I've assigned all of those. We skipped a little bit ahead. I mean, just selecting the ones which I think would be interesting in different color. This method on the bulldozer, it isn't really all that super useful. I mean, I wouldn't want to go without it, but there are other projects. I think if you're doing a character or something with a lot of detail on him that's in the high poly, but not in the low poly. The low poly might just be flat. This really is a very grateful and useful thing to do. So I'm going to make this last one. That looks about right. And once we bake these three, we're just going to repeat the age-old step of combining them. So just going to hide all my low poly pieces again. Close these things into Photoshop. Just going to duplicate these out. And what I'm doing is creating a separate layer at first. And this looks to be about right. Just going to fill that with green. And yeah, that seems like we're about there. So first I'm going to combine all of them. Make sure that the areas are nicely filled out. Combine these, bring it in. And then again, fill that out. And then take the third one. Third one, LPO1, that's the one I did last. And just duplicate these to another document to bring them in. Close this one, just don't save changes. And I'm going to collapse all of them down because really this is a very simple map. and save that out as dozer LPO2 diffuse masks. And the alpha doesn't really matter. Okay, so I can do magic wand selections now. Let's select these things out. You can also, the reason I picked RGB is because you can select them out by going to the channels and using the channels as selection masks. But the problem is I've got the gray in there and I've got the yellow in there, so I can't really do that. I could bake those to a separate layer, but I'm just keeping it on one layer and using a magic wand selection with a tolerance of, I think it's about 8, and turning off contiguous, which means it selects everything in the entire field without it having to touch the area that you've clicked on. I'm trying to select this, changing the tolerance around a little bit to make sure it selects correctly. And that should be about it for our diffuse mask. We'll use these later in the texturing.